All right, so I'm so excited to talk to you all. I really enjoyed this film. You know, in this time of COVID and quarantine, it's a good way to, I guess, extricate ourselves from the four walls that we're stuck in. So the first thing I like to ask everyone right now is, in this quarantine, some people have tried ways to better themselves, whether it's gardening or cooking, or what are you trying to do right now with your? Have you any hobbies amongst you by chance?
Well, I live in a place called the Isle of Man. We haven't had any cases now for over 50 days. We no longer wear masks. We no longer wear gloves. We don't bother with distancing anymore. So we're through it until the next wave of infection hits the island. So it's back to normal, essentially. Uh, to my busy day today was picking up the bucket from the front for the tractor, which somehow I managed to crack badly last week. It's now been welded. I can get back to doing the outside thing, which is to clear the ground so that enough light and trenches can be dug for the 50 solar panels that I want to put in. Apart from that, well, a bit of writing, bit of recording, and a bit of mourning the fact that isolation has to be singular.
Very much so. And talking about farming and dealing with that kind of thing kind of brings along the world that you find yourself in, along with Stephen Brand. You both have a particular world that has freezing over. So can you either Stephen or John, could you tell us what is the current state of the world in G-Loc, the Earth?
The humanity has managed to kind of destroy it, and like you said, no crops are taking anymore, and a lot of the food samples that are available are only stuff that has been stored. So there's interfighting between humans over what they've been able to store, and therefore the most attractive way out of living on Earth, which obviously self-imposed by humans, is to go through the gate and to this country. There he is. Look at Johnny. Looking gorgeous there. That's actually how he used to turn up to work.
That's right, yes.
And they said to him, "This costume's so great. Would you mind if we use this?" And there you go. That's him. And so there's a whole universe system and a country and a world which is like Earth called Rhea. And people from Earth are trying to get to Rhea, but Rhea don't want the people from Earth to get there because they've destroyed their own Earth and they don't want them to destroy Rhea. So that's basically the world that we find ourselves in. And my character Bran is attempting to raise the money in order to be able to send his daughter on a spaceship to Rhea, knowing full well that he and Henry, John's character, will die. But he's trying to do the best thing by his daughter.
Well, and the one thing I did enjoy as well is to kind of keep along the theme here. Of course, Johanthan's character dealing with the frozen world, but then going to your character as well. You also had a nice little fuzzy hat too. So was that kind of a family affair?
Yeah, definitely me trying to carry on everything I'd learned from John Rhys-Davies, and everything I'd learned was how to wear a very cool hat.
and the fun thing about this is like when I look at all the characters, it's based not on total sci-fi, it's based on humanity. I mean, even down to Decker's character too. It's all based on the humanity, survival, life, and the betterment too. So can you tell me, when it came to connecting those things, but in space, what was Decker's first thought? I guess what was your thought when you walked into Decker?
Well, first of all, I'm stuck on those Trouble with Tribbles hats that both of them were wearing. The Tribbles from that guy had the same hat in that Star Trek episode, so it's a mind blowing that they've all drawn from that character. My character Decker, for him, he's trying to save his family, and he's doing what he thinks is right. So his passions are in the right place, but his actual what he's willing to do for his family is a little bit misguided, I think. But I understand his drive and his compassion for his family, but the lack of empathy for the other people and what they might be going through seems to be a struggle.
Now, Stephen, one thing I have to say about your character in this film is they put him in a lot of hurt, different situations. You're kind of rushing. What did they tell you how physical it was going to be? Like usually in space, you think, well, we're going to do some Star Trek jumping about and some rumblings, to kind of shake the camera. But did they tell you how much you were going to fall from things and crawl around?
Actually, looks like I'm sort of trying to escape from COVID there, doesn't it? That's an interesting little shot, that, because we didn't have time the very, very final day of shooting. We didn't have time to shoot that sequence. And I asked everybody, I just went, look, we need the close-up of that sequence. Let's just run in there and we'll do it. Nobody's going to get paid, but let's just run in and do it and finish that sequence off. And in order to make that sequence a little bit more difficult, I'd said, you can't just have him like crawling up a pipe and it's really easy. There needs to be a difficulty. So they put those poles in, but we'd literally got like 7 minutes to shoot it. They put those poles in and they were too narrow for me to get through. So what we did was, what you see there is me already through them. So what we shot was me coming up to that bit and trying to squeeze through, and then I went, keep the camera rolling, and I ran back out down the tunnel all the way back around again, squeezed myself back in again, and we carried on rolling, and we did it in like another version of like something that takes, the way you would get one version, you get one take of it, 2 takes max, and you're having to improvise. And he goes through quite a lot, poor fella.
One of the fun things about this, especially for Decker and Bran, which is something you don't see a lot, is the fact that both you get to fight the same person who is on opposite sides of what you want. So can you tell us a little bit about your fight sequences between both of you? With Osha and Bran and Osha and Decker.
Tala had never really done any of that stuff before, and she did really well. She was, while we were shooting, she was like practicing some of her stunts and stuff, and then she came on, and it was really good. There's some really good stuff that we choreographed, and that when you've got that sort of confined space that you're looking at there, that tiny little circle, the fight has to be quite specific and how things happen and what you smash against. My stuff with Cass was incredibly, again, it's a low budget film, so you've got very little time, and we were fighting at Mach 13, which is basically, I can't remember how many Machs you get to before you get to G-Loc, G1, G2, G3, G4, and then it's like you get to G-Loc. And it was pretty nuts, mate, wasn't it?
It was the craziest fight sequence, but we had no time for it. We ran into it, and they just we looked at each other, and we we're just like, let's just go for it. And so that's the best way, because a lot of times you're going to feel like you're being stupid because you're doing something that's not really happening, and you're trying to force it in. You have to really commit as an actor, and sometimes it's baby steps. We had no time to do baby steps or really test out what we wanted to do. We had to fully go for it. And our director had a great idea of what he wanted to do. And, they had stunts set up for it. They had a whole bunch of different things set up for it, but we had to just go do it ourselves. And we had no stunt doubles in that one.
You know, working with sci-fi and space, it's always the set too. So, what was your first initial thoughts when you came into the sci-fi spaceship world that you started working in? What was your first thoughts when you stepped on there with Stephen and Casper?
I thought, pig farm. How are we going to do this?
What you don't quite understand looking at it, Derek, is that outside those little capsules
is a Starbucks.
We were on a disused pig farm in the middle of nowhere in York, England, and the one specifically where you saw me and Osha, where she's walking to behind me.
Yeah.
That picture. That is a wooden tunnel. That's what it looks like inside, but it's a wooden tunnel covered with black tarpaulin outside in a field. And I'd never seen anything like it. But I tell you what's brilliant about it is George's lighting was superb. And it just goes to show that it's about atmosphere, you know, a little bit of dry ice, a little bit of lighting, good script. You could get away with anything because nobody knows that we're on a pig farm in York. You know, it was a really well constructed, excellently put together little low budget film.
Now I have to ask, this isn't a working pig farm, right? There aren't pigs out in the edge somewhere, because I've smelled a working pig farm, and if you acted while smelling that, you truly deserve some awards.
We were the only pigs on that farm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yep.
John, you tell him. Had you worked there before, John? I can't remember.
No, I think that was my first time. I think yes, but no, it is no longer a working pig farm. But then, as any wardrobe mistress or costume handler will tell you, by and large, actors stink. That's the glamour of it.
A lot of directors will tell you that too.
Yeah. Everyone's a critic. Yes.
Well, I assume the higher you are on the call sheet, the less they care about how you smell. You always hear words about certain actors who prefer their own musk because apparently they like the way they smell, and so should everyone else. So, you know, I do want to touch base back on Johanthan and Earth too. There is a lot of family aspects there too. Was that one of the fun parts about it? Kind of being part of that world and some of the drama that happens with Bran and the family there too.
It's a human script. It's a human story, and it poses a contemporary issue and transports it into the future. And for most of the people who will be watching this film, who are privileged and Western and things like that, it's just a snifter of what it's like to be on the unwelcome end of a journey of migration.
Very cool. Well, you know what, I really did enjoy this film. There was a lot of speed to the film too. There was, you know, we slowed down for dramatic pauses, but there was action. There was flying. I mean, some of the effects with the Decker and Bran fight were a lot of fun as well. So I hope you all had fun making this film. And who knew you'd be talking about it in a quarantine world? I guess too. What was your thoughts when you were working on this film? What was your like? Okay, I'll talk about this, and this will happen, or maybe we'll talk about it at some other point. Like, where were you at your point in life there, looking back and thinking about how good life was then? Do you have any thoughts, perhaps?
You know, it's funny that when you're doing a little low budget film and you're obviously working with a skeleton crew, right? It's not a massive crew. There's not a massive costume department or makeup department. There's one or two people. It's not unlike the kind of films that we're going to be making for the next year. You know, everybody's looking for these little films that are isolated, small crews, small amount of actors, because that's the kind of films that are going to be able to be made right now during quarantine. And I think because we were out in the middle of nowhere. It's not actually sort of a million miles away from what it feels like now in some respects. We were sort of isolated for 3 weeks in our little sort of cocoons. So I knew that we would be talking about Tom, because Tom had done exactly that. He created this little world that could be made like the picture you're looking at right now. You know, it's like, make this little world, make the story small, but make it about massive things, make it about emotion, family, love, you know, betrayal, and then stick it in a spaceship, and you've got a great story.
Fantastic. Well, you know, I'm excited to have everyone else get a chance to check this out. I'm glad that you all had fun making it, and I'm glad to see that you are healthy and well in this world that we are in now.
Hanging in there, Derek. Hanging in there.
Yeah, well, and that seems to be the thing. Everyone's trying to figure out how to, as you put it, live in a singular world, which is definitely a hardship that we didn't realize was a hardship until now. Everyone looked for escape until all you have is escape. Which is very timely, especially when you're stuck in space on your own as well. Did they actually, you know, I was trying to think, did they actually say how long you were in your little space shuttle? How Bran was in his space shuttle? It was for...
So time in that galaxy is 18 years to every British. I keep going back to Britain. Back to Earth's 1 year. So 18 years is 1 year. So even though he's been in there for sort of like 3 or 4 months, it's like 7 or 8 years that he's actually been up there in their time. So it's not actually that long for him.
I got you.
It's called relativistic time dilation.
Thank you.
Just in case you needed to know that.
You know, and you are one of the men who would know that. Between some of the things you've done, I recently just watched you on Sliders again. So the amount of things I would trust coming out of your mouth that were based on science, like you could tell me anything. You could tell me that
John is the oracle.
Yes,
guys, I'm so sorry. I have to go because I'm taking my kids to the doctor. I've gone over. So yeah, I'm going to jump off. And I'll leave you guys talking. Lots of love.
We got to go. You'll have a great day. I'm just going to close out. You all have a fantastic day, and I thank you again for coming on. G-Loc's fantastic. Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Cheers, John. Love you, mate.